Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the 4 on 5 podcast. I'm your host, Zach Oliver. Tonight, we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. We're going to be previewing the Christmas Day games one by one. This one is the Oklahoma City Thunder versus San Antonio Spurs. We're joined by Chuck Chaney, owner and editor of Thunder Obsessed, and Ian Dougherty of SB Nation's Pounding the Rock. And as always, Akbar Naqvi of SB Nation's Bullets Forever, and Rick Stone of Fansided's Pelican Debrief. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well.
Oh, not too bad so far.
No complaints?
Saw the Wizards lose tonight, so that was not fun, but other than that, it's been all right.
Your team didn't lose to the 76ers, so you're okay.
Fair enough.
All right, well, we've got a good slate of games on Christmas. What are kind of some of your general thoughts on this matchup? Akbar, I'll start with you.
Which one? It's
Oklahoma City and San Antonio.
okay. Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. It depends on whether Durant plays. I would guess he would. I'm not sure about that, but either way, it's gonna be fun to see how San Antonio counters Oklahoma City's athleticism, which they've struggled with in the past, even though they won the series last year. So it should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, they have a little history together. Chuck, what are your thoughts heading into this matchup?
I apparently turned my camera off. I don't know how. Oh, there we go. I'm really excited. Here in Oklahoma City, I think it's developed into a bit of a rivalry. I don't know how Ian feels, but with the way we've battled throughout the regular season and then we've met in the playoffs, a lot of people feel it's either the Grizzlies and the Thunder or the Spurs and the Thunder are more of the rivalries that we have for us. And that's why, but people are pretty excited about it. They're pumped. I know a lot of people are planning watch parties on Christmas Day to watch this. So they're pretty excited.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful for this game as well. In terms of rivalry, I guess it kind of is without like the whole dislike. I think there's a lot of respect between players of both teams. But what I'm kind of waiting on for Christmas Day is to kind of see if guys like Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard are going to play. They haven't been in the past few games due to various injuries and maladies. So them playing will kind of determine my excitement for the game. But I am always excited to see Russell Westbrook. He's absolutely destroying things this year. He's a legit MVP candidate. He's having his most productive and most efficient season in like 31 minutes a game. So I'm excited to see him try and destroy worlds outside of this space.
So would you say you're ready for Westbrook to be Bestbrook?
Yes, definitely.
Hustle Bestbrook, that's what we call him. Yep.
And Rick, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You have two different teams who play very different. San Antonio relies on their very deep bench, and they use them a lot with how the regular season goes. Greg Popovich is almost the champion of being able to use his players and rest them for the playoffs during the regular season. And then you see Oklahoma City with these injuries have really had to rely on their bench, and they've had some problems with it, struggling scoring the ball and really staying in games. So it's going to be interesting to see the battle. I mean, Oklahoma City will probably depend a lot on Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, and Kevin Durant to really dominate most assets of this game. And for San Antonio, they're probably going to go really deep as they usually do. And it will be up to Oklahoma City to try to at least disrupt their style. They've had a lot of history in recent years against each other, so it's going to be a fun battle. I mean, these are two of the best teams in the West, so fun is just ready to be had in this matchup.
Right, and we're looking at two teams. San Antonio is currently sitting seventh in the West. That might not exactly show how good they are, and they've battled some injuries. Kawhi's been in and out of the lineup. Tony Parker's been in and out of the lineup. They've played back-to-back triple overtime games, and that's just unheard of.
Yeah, they've had some tough games, and they've had some injuries. Kawhi's been out for a while. The back-to-backs, like you said, they've had to sit some guys that maybe they would have liked to play more. But you're right. This is a really, really good team, and maybe the schedule and the tough games are really shadowing that from how good they really are. But it's probably going to show, and I could definitely see this being an overtime game. It's going to be tight. Don't expect a blowout.
Yeah, I don't think we can really expect a blowout in any of the Christmas Day games. Maybe that first one with the Bulls and the Wizards and the Knicks. But I think overall we're going to get a good slate of Christmas Day games. And we touched on Kawhi being in and out of the lineup, but how have the Spurs managed to kind of, I guess, make up for his loss? Because he does a lot of things, and we saw that especially during the finals last year.
Yeah, guys like Danny Green and Kyle Anderson have really had to step up. Danny Green's been he's been shooting lights out the past few games. Had one of his kind of trademark icy hot stretches. He'll be cold for like a little while in the season, and he'll just take off. And he's done that without Kawhi, and he's helped out on defense, rebounding. He's been crashing from the corner, so he's been great. And Kyle Anderson has been kind of thrown into the fire a little bit. A lot of people didn't think he, had an NBA ready game coming out of college. They thought he'd have to really adjust to the pace and whatnot. And I think he's done an okay job of that so far. He showed off a really nice, post repertoire, posting up smaller guards and being able to score over them, and that's provided a little bit of scoring. And he's also able to set up the offense. And he's had fairly good minutes, that Kawhi would usually have at the three. Now, defense, that's a different story. He's not that great, or really not very good at all on defense, but he's been better than we thought he would be at this point. He's ahead of schedule, I think, on that side of the ball. He's able to make plays. So that's really how they've kind of been able to make up for that a little bit. I haven't really seen any wins because of it, but as you said, they had 2 triple overtime games. They were triple overtime games for a reason. Those games were split, and that's without Tony Parker or Kawhi Leonard. So I think the Spurs are looking okay considering how many games they've lost recently.
Yeah, and you look at that last triple overtime game against the Blazers on Friday night.
Yeah.
They were up 6 in both the first overtime and the second overtime, I believe.
Yeah.
And the Blazers just found ways to fight back and
Damian
force
Lillard
that
is
third overtime.
Damian Lillard is insane. He's nuts, man. I can't believe he put on that type of performance. He was good.
Yeah, and Chuck, Oklahoma City's kind of in the same boat almost. They've had a slew of injuries. Their first 3 weeks, it seemed like one game somebody went down, the next game it was somebody else, and then next game it was somebody else. They're starting to put everything back together and get whole again. And we've seen them go on that run, and then Durant sprained his ankle Thursday night against the Warriors. Do you think, since they kind of got a late start almost, that they're on a good pace to make their way back into the playoffs?
Oh, after the loss tonight, they're only a game and a half out of Phoenix for the 8th spot. They're there. It's just getting back into game shape. We watched Perry Jones tonight. He missed 3 weeks, and we watched him kind of struggle since he's been back. But tonight he come out. The offense. We saw him run plays for PJ3 a little bit more. Than he did really well. Had 10 points in the third, and Westbrook's really good about getting wants to. So, but we're doing fine getting players back involved. And when Westbrook comes back, not Westbrook, but Durant Tuesday against the Trailblazers, I heard he could have played tonight, but it was his precaution that we decided not to. but I know we'll probably definitely see him on Christmas. Great game with all the stars play. I think it'll live up to the hype.
Yeah, and that's how the NBA scheduled it. It's almost perfect because we get that potential snoozer of the Bulls Knicks game, or God, Wizards Knicks, sorry, and then we get a really good matchup with Thunder and the Spurs, and then we go into another one which, if everyone is healthy, could be very good in Cleveland and Miami. But we look at these two teams' histories, and they met in the Western Conference Finals last year, and they've seemed to be on a crash course for each other every year in the playoffs. What kind of impact do you guys think that has on when they meet in the regular season?
Well, I mean, they definitely understand how to play each other. They've had
think
past experience. Go on ahead.
Yeah, and then you have execs who come like Sam Presti, who was in San Antonio for many years, and he knows the organization well. And they play year in two Western Conference. There's nothing new that they won't see as plan that the coaches put forward.
Yeah, everything's really just going to be execution based. These guys know each other's sets. They know how the defense is going to look. It's just going out there and executing, and that's something that both of these teams, when they're on, they can both execute at a high level. So hopefully we can see the best of the two teams that have kind of struggled a little bit this year, and they can kind of all put it all out.
Yeah, I think these teams know how each other play. You play a series like they did last year, and everyone threw out everything that they had to win that series. So it's just really going to be about both teams going by their game plan, doing what they want to do, and whoever executes it better is probably going to come out with the victory.
Yeah, I mean, and they might. Go ahead. I was going to say, the records this season, we have kind of throw those out. I mean, it's like top of the West right now. Well, they played 19 games against the Western Conference, which is really, really tough. They're just getting beat up. We're going to see that record for them shoot up, and same thing with Thunder when they start playing a little bit more Eastern Conference. But I think we're going to see a raw game, especially, let's say, Tony Parker plays Manu and Kawhi, the way he defends Durant. So we're excited to get out there. That Kawhi Durant matchup is something I'm dreading, but I'm looking forward to it in the same token.
The one thing I was just going to say was, last in the playoff series they had in the Western Conference Finals last year, the one thing that'll really be different on Christmas is Serge Ibaka is going to be healthy. He was kind of out for a lot, in that postseason, and he came back, but he was never really at full strength. And a full strength Serge Ibaka, I think, really hurts the Spurs. A huge athletic big guy, can stretch the floor, tremendous rim protector. That really kind of gums up what the Spurs try and do offensively, which is a lot of pick and roll, a lot of drive and kick. And Serge Ibaka, when healthy, can negate a lot of that. And they've had struggles in the past with him, so he's kind of my guy to watch for this game, just because of how he affects how the Spurs like to play.
Right, and I think that was a real big issue for the Thunder last year because they were relying on Kendrick Perkins and a rookie and Steven Adams a lot more because of the Ibaka injury. Akbar, do you have any thoughts on what their familiarity with each other could do for the matchup?
They've played each other before. I think they basically know there's like others have said, they know the sets. They know what each team is capable of. I really think it's just a matter of whether the Thunder's length and athleticism can overcome the Spurs' precision. And the Spurs are going to have to be on their game, and they're going to have to make as crisp plays as possible. And even then, if they do that, the Thunder can break those up, and they just have to overcome that. And it's going to be interesting to see, who wins in the end in that respect.
Yeah, and you know, I think that familiarity helps, but it also it hurts. It might potentially hurt the product because we're going to see two teams know what each other are going to run, so they're just going to be locking down, and maybe it won't be the high scoring potential that it could. Akbar, I'll start with you on this. What's one matchup that you'll be watching on Christmas Day?
I mean, that's a tough one. Right now, for me, it's Thunder-Spurs is definitely the one that I'm most interested in. But the one that I think is I'm really excited for is Clippers-Warriors, because I think the Clippers have been a little bit up and down this year, even though the record shows them as one of the top teams in the West. But what I'm really curious about is how the Warriors can manage without Bogut. It's because they have a lot of defenders, they have a lot of length and athleticism, but Bogut is the guy that's really the catalyst for that defense, and the Clippers' offense is one of the best in the league. So it's going to be interesting to see how Steve Kerr adjusts, and of course, watching Steph versus Chris Paul is always fun. And Steph is one of my favorite players in the league, so I'm super excited for that.
What about matchup-wise in this Oklahoma City-San Antonio game?
Matchup-wise, I'm looking mostly for basically the Kevin Durant-Kawhi matchup and Russell Westbrook-Tony Parker. Now, maybe Parker can't guard Westbrook one-on-one, and I'm not sure Westbrook can do the same, but I'm interested to see how they impact their teams in different ways, and the respective roles that they play, how they differ, and how well they do in them, basically.
Yeah, Chuck, what's a matchup that you'll be watching in this game?
Well, I really want to see how the Thunder just defend the Spurs a little bit better. Last year, like Boris Diaw, he was a Thunder murderer last season. We had no answer for him. I mean, that could help with a more veteran Steven Adams coming in or Ibaka being healthy. But we watched tonight, Adams Anthony Davis obliterates everyone. But Steven Adams made no effort to guard him, and it was kind of reverted back to what we saw last year in the Western Conference Finals. He didn't respect him enough, and he left him open, and I'm afraid we may see that again if Adams continues the way he's playing. I just want to see how we guard the Spurs bench, because that could be the difference.
Yeah, and Ian touched on this before, that Spurs bench is just so deep that they can just plug and play guys, and it works. Everyone buys into what Greg Popovich is doing, and that's what makes them so good year in and year out, even with their quote-unquote superstars and Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili continuing to age. Ian, we'll go to you. What's a matchup you'll be watching in this game?
Probably outside of the obvious ones like Kawhi and Kevin Durant and Tim Duncan, Serge Ibaka, and all those things. One kind of sleeper matchup I'm looking at is Corey Joseph versus Reggie Jackson off the bench. Reggie Jackson, whenever he's played the Spurs, has gone for 20 and really been the difference in how the Thunder have beaten them. So I think if if guys like Tony and Kawhi play and Corey Joseph's coming off the bench, I think him checking Reggie Jackson is going to be huge for him, because Corey Joseph is he's taken a while to get here, but now he's a really solid option off the bench. He's a good backup point guard, and he's a kind of hellacious defender. Always going 100%. He's got a high engine. So he's going to be having to take on Jackson and try and stop him from being the X factor for the Thunder.
Yeah, that's a good one because Corey Joseph has really stepped in and filled in for Tony Parker admirably, and Reggie Jackson's done the same thing when Russell Westbrook's been out. Rick, we'll finish with you here. Well, which one of those matchups in that game you'll be watching?
Well, I'm actually looking towards the bench to really swing this game. We all know what the starters can do, but this is going to come down really to when they're out of the game. What is it? Maybe even the matchup to watch is Boris Diaw versus Kendrick Perkins. Whichever one of them really gets the rebounds when the benches are on the units, gets them more shots, they can manufacture more points. We both know these teams can execute, so it might just come down to who wins the rebounding battle, who wins the hustle plays. And that's where the bench comes into play. You like the Spurs because they're better at execution. But we've seen guys in this Oklahoma City bench who just work hard and go after all the loose balls. Maybe Anthony Morrow might make a difference in this game, a sharpshooter Oklahoma City necessarily didn't have last year. It's going to be interesting to see which one of those benches kind of put their statement on this game, and that might really be the difference.
Yeah, and the Thunder bench has really stepped up this season some, especially in the absence of Durant and Westbrook. I have one that kind of went unmentioned. Andre Roberson against Danny Green. Roberson is known for his defense, and Green really has been shooting the ball well and has kind of been a catalyst for the Spurs lately. And Roberson might not have it offensively right now, but if he's guarding Danny Green, he's going to give him problems, and that just takes another dimension out of that Spurs offense, possibly.
Yeah, and he's also a more athletic version of Thabo Sefolosha defensively, I think.
Yeah, he is. I equated it earlier to Thabo Sefolosha was like an iPhone 3G, and then Andre Roberson was like a 3GS, because neither one of them can really do both sides of the ball. They can only do one thing.
Yeah, and we've really seen that with Thabo Sefolosha in Atlanta this year. I believe he's shooting somewhere around 13% from deep. So
Robert's 14, so they're right there. They're trying to see who's really horrible.
All right, well, we'll get ready to wrap this up, but I've got one more question for everybody. I'm going to start with Chuck and then go to Ian. Who wins and why?
Oh, I'm going to say probably the Spurs are going to take it because, it's in San Antonio. We're assuming that everybody's playing. Spurs healthy. We've seen last year they just ran the gauntlet on us, even with Ibaka not play with Ibaka in there halfway. They just still kind of took us to the woodshed. So I'm gonna probably say Spurs. It's gonna be close. I don't see overtime because I'm sure the Thunder will mess that up somehow if it gets close.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and also say Spurs, simply because they need this win. They've had a really tough time the past week or two, especially with guys going in and out of the lineup like crazy, and they've lost a lot of really close games. And I just I don't ever think that anybody's due for a win in this league. But at the same time, there is kind of a law of averages, and I think the Spurs are going to finally get some of those balls to go their way. They're going to get, some of those 50-50 shots and, hopefully be able to move the ball against a long-limbed Thunder defense so they can, keep that ball moving and get threes and do what they want to do. I just think they need it more at this point than Thunder do.
Right. And I'll finish with Rick and Akbar. Who do you guys think wins and why?
I'm actually going to pick the Thunder in this one. The Spurs definitely need this game, and the Thunder do too. They're both fighting around the lower end of that playoff spot in the Western Conference. I like the way the Thunder bench is played, and especially if Durant is playing, that team just looks so much more fluent when he's on the floor. We've seen what he can do in the last game that he played. He had that streak where he just hit every shot that he could. With him and Westbrook, the defense is going to have to adjust, and the Spurs know how to do that. I just feel like they have a little bit of the upper edge, the way they've been running. When Kevin Durant's been on the floor, I think they've only lost one game. So it'll be intriguing to see this matchup, but I'm going to pick the Thunder.
I think I'm gonna pick the Thunder too, mainly because the Thunder have always been a really tough matchup for San Antonio, and there's some new elements added into this, which is Westbrook's newfound efficiency and just the insane level he's playing this year. Roberson's athleticism is going to create some problems for San Antonio, and Ibaka's newfound ability to shoot threes. There's like a bunch of new things that the Thunder have learned. Their bench has been playing well. I expect Durant to have a big game because he's been due, even though he's been terrific since he's back. He hasn't. He's due for that really dominant game, and I expect that to happen against on the biggest stage on Christmas Day against the Spurs. I think the Spurs, it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a moderately high scoring game, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, if you're putting me on the spot to pick, I'll probably take the Spurs, and that's assuming full health for both teams. I think San Antonio's all-around play might be too much for the Thunder, especially if Durant might not be 100%. But I think that'll do it. Do you guys have any final thoughts that you would like to share before we get out of here?
Yeah, it's kind of sad that other people are picking the Thunder, and the Thunder writer said, no, let's let the Spurs win.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Ian would go with the Spurs or the Thunder, so we would have a split house here.
I mean, I could definitely see it happen. The Thunder, heck of a good team, and obviously have their advantages in this game as well. So hopefully it'll be a good time watching. Either way.
I think the only real surprise we get is we have a blowout either way. Other than that, we're expecting a really good game. But if we have like a 20-point blowout on Christmas, I think that's going to be our real surprise.
Yeah, and we saw that last year, I believe, in the first game of the day, and that kind of sours things a little bit, per se, for some people, because everyone's tuning in to watch good basketball, and usually we're going to get that. But if it turns into a blowout, people are going to choose to only spend their time with family.
It's win-win, pretty much, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see what the Kendrick Perkins highlight of the game is.
It'll be a 2-foot missed shot.
Nah, he'll play a 16-footer. He's always due for like one or two of those versus San Antonio.
We'll throw down on Corey Joseph or something. It'll be hysterical.
We've nicknamed all the little perk misses right at the rim. We call those perks. He has about 3 perks a game.
Chances Westbrook has a huge posterizes someone pretty much.
It happens about once a game. Yeah.
Yeah. Westbrook seems to play with no fear. So.
Yeah.
3-1 odds.
Oh, I love him tonight. People were criticizing him for taking so many shots and not passing. He goes, hey, nobody's criticizing me. We were winning 8 in a row. I don't want to hear it now.
I love Russ. So
it's almost as good as Nick Young saying the right arm strictly for buckets.
Swaggy P.
All right, but back on track. That'll do it for this edition of the 4-on-5 podcast. I'm Zach Oliver. You can follow me on Twitter at ZachOliverNBA. Rick, you can follow at RickStoneNBA. Ian's boring, and you can follow him at Ian Dougherty. Chuck, you can follow at Thunder Obsessed. And Akbar, you can follow at Akbar Raza Nakvi. So, thanks again, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Until next time.